to another Firearm Freedom YouTube live stream. What is going on, guys? I feel like I'm a little bit off-centered, maybe. Let me fix that quick. I hope everybody is doing well. This is going to be an open Q&A live stream, and I actually haven't done an open Q&A live stream in quite a while, so this should be an interesting one. Before we get the questions rolling, or I should say before everybody starts coming in, asking questions and everything like that, I figured I'd give you guys some updates as usual on what's going on with the channel, what you can expect over the next week or two, and also a relatively big change, but it might not be a big change for you guys here on YouTube, more so a big change for my Instagram family over on Instagram. But if you guys haven't tuned in for one of these live stream Q&As before in the past, it is totally an open Q&A. So if you guys want to ask me a certain question, you can do that. It doesn't really matter what the question is about. If the question even, matters with the channel, if it's something you guys are just interested in asking me, what's going on, man? You guys can ask me it here live. And that is pretty cool because you can get my live response to your question. And I like doing these every once in a while, but I think if you do them too much, they can be a little bit overdone, if you will. As always, after these live streams end, I will always post a link down in the description to all the ways that you can support the channel and also all of the other pages that Firearm Freedom is at. So the main thing with Firearm Freedom is my YouTube channel, but I do have a Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter account, and then I also have a Firearm Freedom Discord server. All of that stuff can be found underneath the live streams. And yeah, it's a lot of content that you guys are not going to want to miss out on. As far as for updates with videos coming out on the channel, on Tuesday this week, it's actually already almost done being edited, and I'm going to stage it to be uploaded Tuesday, will be 5 guns that I regret buying. I know many of you guys were looking forward to this video for a while. This thing has been dragging along now for about 2 weeks, but thank God it is finally coming out this Tuesday, probably in the morning, but I might try out a new time during the day. So just expect it at some point Tuesday. 5 guns that I regret buying. That video will be coming out. And then later in the week, I'm actually probably going to be doing a video, or I should say more of a first impressions video, on a new piece of gear, which is the Faro Concepts, or not Faro Concepts, sorry. I have Faro Concepts on the mind from another project. A Spiritus Systems bank robber chest rig. This is a pretty cool chest rig. This is kind of my first go at trying different chest rigs. I have been running plate carriers for quite some time on the channel. Really enjoy running a plate carrier at the range because it kind of gives you the added value of getting some more cardio involved there when you're running around at the range with the heavy plate carrier on. But I do see a lot of merit in just more of a low pro chest rig like that. So I decided to get the bank robber chest rig. I saw that it was in stock on Spiritus Systems website. They had the multicam in stock, so I figured I'd grab it. And this is a cool little chest rig. I did get their H harness, which is, I think they call it like the fat strap. So it's a little bit easier to get on compared to the X harness. Really a personal preference thing. I find that the H harness is quicker to get on, and it just, I don't know, that may matter to some of you, it may not. The big reason also why I liked the bank robber rig is, as you guys can see, it has more of just a like generic stretchy material for the mag carriers, and I do have some AK mags in here. So I've been testing this out on a variety of different magazines, and in particular, I wanted to see if I could run AK mags, and I can. This is a pretty cool thing because I want to throw this. It can be really easily kind of folded up like this, and I would like to have this in my EDC bag for my M92, which is kind of currently my EDC gun, is that little AK pistol. So this works out pretty well. really am enjoying it, and you guys are going to see a lot more on that in the first impressions video. Other than that, as far as the big change on the channel, the big change is going to be my Instagram live streams. So I've been trying to think about ways to kind of spice up Firearm Freedom a little bit. I think I generally have the bad habit of letting things get a bit stale sometimes before I spice it up a little bit. And sometimes it takes me a lot longer. I tend to be a creature of habit where I just stay in my routines and try to continue to do the same thing and expect a different result, which obviously, as we know, generally doesn't help out. So I'm going to try something totally new. Normally, I've been doing live streams on Instagram twice a week. I stopped doing them twice a week after I got hit with the good old illness a few weeks ago, and I brought them back. I brought them back for, more of a one-a-week sort of thing, and I'm like, you know what? What if I try something completely different? And what I may be trying is actually getting rid of the Instagram live streams completely. And I know many of you that watch on Instagram are going to be like, oh my God, what is he doing? But what I'm thinking about doing is actually moving the content from an Instagram live stream to a podcast. So I've been thinking about doing a Firearm Freedom podcast for quite a while. This has been going for like months now, actually, and trying to find time for a podcast, trying to like allocate, topics and different things for a podcast, and it just isn't really working out. And I think a lot of the reason for that is because I'm doing, at a normal schedule, I'm doing 3 live streams a week. So a lot of those topics are really covered at some point in time on one of the 3 live streams for Firearm Freedom. So what I'm thinking about doing now is actually axing the Instagram live streams and moving that live stream content to the podcast, setup. Now, I don't know officially, how that's going to go. I don't know if you guys are really going to dig the podcast or not, but I feel like a podcast format may be something a little bit different for the channel to totally spice it up. What's going on, Neil? And to just get, target a different audience. I also know that podcasts at the moment are generally not hit quite as hard for crazy censorship as it is here on YouTube and other places, and it's also easier on a podcast to get, monetary support. I guess it's called monetary support, but, sponsors or whatever on a podcast, I feel like is, a little bit more commonplace, and it's not as much like in your face as it is here on YouTube and different things like that. So I would like to give it a shot, but I also know that if I tell you guys I'm going to do a podcast, and also continue to do, 2 live streams on Instagram and a live stream here on YouTube, I would be lying to you if I was telling you I was still going to have the time to do all of those things and still produce content here on YouTube. So I am going to probably take the Instagram live streams, put them on the back burner for a little bit. Main reason for this is because, the viewers on Instagram, it's still a very, very low viewer count. So when I do those live streams, it's generally only, 5-10 people watching them live. And because of that, I'm like, man, I feel like I could be reaching a larger audience with the same exact content on some sort of a podcast. So stay tuned for that. I am going to kind of see if I can get something moving in the limelight. Limelight, man, I'm messing up all the words tonight. It wouldn't be a YouTube live stream without messing up words, man. Trying to get a podcast in the spotlight, but you guys will be able to see that hopefully in about a week or 2. I would like to film a couple of episodes at first. In my experience with doing YouTube and other things, having staged episodes ready to go or staged videos ready to go before you start something new is always a good idea so that you don't get overwhelmed with trying to make a bunch of new content. So stay tuned for that, and also let me know down in the comment section what you would like to see in the way of a podcast. What topics you would like covered? What style would you like the podcast in? These are all questions that are very important. But without any other further ado, let's go ahead and break into this live open Q&A. So whatever questions that you guys have, if you have questions that you were meaning to ask in a previous live stream, please type them in live and I will answer them and try to do my best. And we will go from there. But I know a lot of you guys, in past lives were asking me questions, but it was going a little bit fast and I don't think I answered a lot of them. So I'm hoping that we'll get some questions today. If we don't, we'll go ahead and probably start rambling about another topic or so here. And we will go from there. Doc, I mow my lawn, work out, and do other yard work outside in full kit. I'm trying to stay fit and prep for the Murph workout. My neighbors and people driving by point and laugh. Am I in the wrong here? I would not say you're in the wrong. That's a great first question. I don't think you're in the wrong. I think to an everyday average person, maybe it looks a little odd, but that's okay. That's okay. I think anytime you can add a little bit of cardio in your day-to-day routines, add a little bit more stress, that is always, a good thing to do. I'm going to try to move the light a little bit because I feel like there was a little bit of shadow overcast, but that's all right. So no, I generally try to stay as low profile as I can, as gray man as I can to my neighbors and different things like that. So I rarely bring a lot of tactical accessories or other things outside, tactical gear outside. I never bring guns out, that aren't in non-discrete bags and different things. I just try to make the Firearm Freedom compound, if you will, as low profile as possible, mainly for when we're not at home, and that's why I try to stay as private as I can here on YouTube, with different tidbits of information, gun shops that I work at or whatever. I try to stay as private as I can, so that way when we're not home, it's at a little bit of a lower risk of theft, different things like that. That's always a concern. So I try to stay a little bit more low profile. But hey, man, if you want to run it, go ahead and run it. I hope the podcast still has a co-host. Well, that's the beauty of the podcast, is that it's actually a lot easier for me to bring people onto the podcast, interview people, and of course we'll have the sound of co-hosts in the way of guns on the podcast still. But it's a lot easier for me to even, call somebody up on the phone and have the audio set up in a way that I can interview different people, ask them questions. That's a lot easier to do in a podcast format. It seems like it would be easy to do in a video format here on YouTube or on Instagram, but that can be a lot more complicated. So I'm excited to kind of transition some of the live stream content over to a podcast and see how it goes. If you guys really hate that and you really want to see more of that content brought back to Instagram live streams, then that would be something I would consider as well. These are all things to spice it up for the channel. Sean, 3 guns I regret buying. Number 1, IO Inc. Hellhound. Sorry. 2, DPMS Oracle in 5.56, and 3, the Kimber Tactical Pro. Surprising with the Kimber. I would ask you if you were having any sort of reliability problems or anything like that with the Kimber. The Tactical Pro tends to be okay. I'm not a huge fan of Kimber 1911s, mainly for the price point. I feel like Kimber overcharges like crazy for the actual quality of 1911 that you're getting. I think in reality, a bulk of their 1911s really should be around like the $800 price point, but instead they're like $1,300, $1,400 price point. So yeah, as far as IO Inc. in particular is probably one of the worst firearms manufacturers / importers that I have ever seen, as far as products coming in. I have never bought an IO ink because luckily, you know, I worked at a gun shop and was seeing the things coming in from IO, whether it was their random AR variants that they tried to dabble with, you know, here or there. And then, of course, the worst was their AK variants. The AK variants were so horrendously bad. I remember taking some out of the box, and the entire rifle, I mean, not just, you know, a canted front sight or a canted rear sight. I mean, the entire rifle from receiver to barrel was bent, like bending in a U shape. And it was always ironic because they would slap on a green QC sticker like they were really doing God's work with the QC, and it was always horrible. Rivets looked horrible. I remember people buying them and, you know, people wanting to return them immediately, saying, hey, this is not reliable at all, it doesn't work. All of those things happened with IO. And I really think they did some shady stuff to maybe make themselves look like they were something they were not before, you know, everything started to get out on the internet and YouTube. And yeah, just really, really bad overall. I haven't seen many IO products more recently. I don't even know if they're still in business, actually, but that would be one I completely understand regretting. As far as for the DPMS, I think a lot of people went with the DPMS Oracle series. You know, I don't know. If it was the DPMS Oracle without the front sight, like the just milled over front sight post, I could see the regret. As far as if it was one with the fixed front sight, you know, I don't know. I don't know if I'd hate it that badly. But, you know, it's understandable. Scott, welcome to the live stream. Good to see you in here. Are you familiar with rudimentary black powder, making of rudimentary black powder? I am not. I never got into any form of reloading. And the reason why I mention that is because, you know, I'm not as familiar with the different forms of powder, smokeless powder or black powder. And as far as, you know, either of the two, I really honestly couldn't tell you too much. Scott, fly under the radar, smart move. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I try to do that as much as I possibly can. I try to be as low profile as possible. And that, you know, that's just kind of, I think what everyone does when you start getting into the gun world. Andrew, what's up, man? When you start carrying, especially when you start carrying a gun, I think it is a lot more important to just stay low profile. You know, that was always just kind of, I don't know, common sense to me. When you're out and about, you know, I wouldn't be wearing like, you know, 511 pants and everything like that. That's been going around a lot more recently. For me, I do work at a gun shop, and I'll be honest with you guys, almost every day of the gun shop, I'm wearing 511 pants. Reason why I'm wearing those pants at the gun shop is because whether I'm test firing, cleaning guns, or doing anything like that at the shop, inevitably my pants get destroyed. You know, I'm like up and down all over the place carrying things around, and jeans just get shredded and destroyed, and oil and grease and, you know, carbon, whatever gets on them. So I try to reserve all that stuff for when I'm outside of work, but at work, you know, I'll rock the 511 pants all day. I'm at work, I'm at a gun shop, so there's not too much of being a gray man, if you will, at a gun shop. But more recently, I actually just started getting into looking at different sort of EDC bags. Just picked up my first tennis racket bag for the good old M92. I wish I could show you guys the M92 here in this live stream, but unfortunately YouTube is pretty ridiculous with their live streams, and I can't even display, or I should say handle a firearm in them. But yeah, I think it is always a good idea to be more low profile. I think it's a very dumb idea to do anything that's going to pinpoint you out as different than anybody else in the room. You know, I think going with the flow, but being aware of what is around you is important. What do I mean by that? I mean, you know, it's important to not follow the herd of cattle into wherever they're going, right? Just mindless zombies walking around. But I think it's important to look like you are just going along, with whatever else everybody's doing. Oh, I got to go here, I got to go there, whatever. But always be aware of what's going on around you. Being situationally aware, stuff like that is always important. So yeah, I don't know. I'm preaching to the choir there. I mean, you guys are going to know all that stuff regardless. Cardboard boxes make excellent carry cases, as do laptop cases, musical instrument cases. Absolutely. Anything that, is just nondescript. I mean, I even go as far as, and this is a little bit ridiculous, but, even, you guys know the old adage of, don't throw out a massive TV box, right? Like, don't throw out your brand new 70-inch flat screen box that, is out on the side of the street now, and letting everyone in your neighborhood know that you just bought a fancy new TV. All of that stuff is relatively important, but I think it's also really important with gun boxes. So I am, obviously, I have a business here on YouTube that I am reviewing stuff and getting stuff in the mail and, buying stuff all of the time. And with that comes a lot of random gun boxes. Boxes with my channel name on it, boxes with, what is in the box, gun stuff, whatever parts. And I always try to bring those cardboard boxes to work to throw them out because I just don't feel super, super comfortable, laying all that stuff down on the bottom of the driveway for cardboard pickup or whatever. And that is always something to be aware of. Whenever you're putting all that stuff out there, it lets everybody know. Now, I mean, obviously, chances are, not trying to be too paranoid, chances are everybody's just, as far as the trash people are just throwing it in the back of the trash compactor or whatever and not paying much attention. But if somebody walked by, and noticed, I mean, I know if I walked by being a gun person, obviously that's not as much of a risk because I'm not going to be the one like, oh man, I got to, go try to steal someone's stuff. But walking by, I know if I saw like SB tactical boxes and Magpul boxes and whatever, I'd be like, oh, that person's a gun person, right? So I think it's important to just kind of cover that stuff up a little bit. And yeah, man, that was a little bit of a tangent on Gray Man stuff randomly. Maybe do something on caching weapons. Yeah, I think that's definitely something that would be an interesting video to do. I don't know. I have a lot of different points on that, but I feel like that would be a great one for an entirely different live stream. I don't know how much of a tangent I want to get on it because that's a big one to unpack. I regret buying IO Inc. anything. Yeah, I mean, it is tough not to regret buying anything IO, unfortunately. As crazy as it is, I would say even Century US-made stuff is like even a somewhat of a step higher than IO Inc., which is wild because IO Inc. is horrible. I don't know. I mean, at least the Century stuff like kind of looks okay out of the box. Like the IO Inc. stuff doesn't even look good out of the box. But yeah, there's a couple of Century US made AKs that are going to be on that list of guns that I regret buying. So definitely stand by for that. Does any military use 5.56 AKs? I know 5.45 is used in various militaries, but is 5.56 for US only variants? To be honest with you, I truly don't know. I would say no. My gut tells me no, there is not a 5.56 AK variant in use in any militaries around the world. But I could be wrong. I mean, you could... I'm going to really get off into the weeds here with AK people, but I mean, you could argue that obviously there is a 5.56 Galil that was in use, and there is variants of the Galil in use around today, and that would, I'm reaching here, but could be considered more of an AK variant at its heart, somewhat, so you could see that. Yes, actually, Scott, you are very true. Poland does use the Beryl, I believe, which is 5.56. So they do have a 5.56 variation of that, if I'm not mistaken. So there would be another country that uses the 5.56 cartridge. as far as other variants, I mean, obviously you have the Bulgarian variant of the 5.56, and I don't know if that was only made for U.S. market and not made for any sort of military use overseas. I have absolutely no idea on that one. I could be totally wrong, but I don't know. It's tough to say. Okay. As for rudimentary black powder, the hard part is the saltpeter, saltpeter. I don't know. I feel like I'm not saying that right. You can get it at chemical supply places, but post SHTF you can make it, but it's unpleasant. Interesting. Kimber had nothing but issues. This was 12 years ago. I bought it because LAPD SWAT got contract for tactical and TLE RL. I sent it back and it still didn't work, so I sold it and bought the Glock 21 G3 R2F2. Yeah, so Sean, there are actually a couple guns on my list in the video dropping Tuesday of guns that I regret buying. That really, like, the gun should have been a good gun, but it's just not reliable. And I totally feel your pain, because when you get something that's not reliable, it sucks. It really sucks. It should be reliable. It's not. And in my experience, there's a lot of companies that just don't do a good job when it comes to warranty repair. As far as Kimber, it's very frustrating to send a gun back to somebody and get it back in return, and it still doesn't work. It's still not reliable. And I've found in my experience that really the only thing that changes those problems is just replacing the gun entirely. So having the company send you a new gun. But a lot of the time when that happens, your trust for that particular gun is totally ruined. And that happens a ton. That's happened with me, and I feel you. That sucks for sure. Is Optic a good place to order from? Because Optics Planet sucks. I personally am not a huge fan of Optics Planet. I feel like they do some shady stuff as far as for when things actually are available. For those of you guys that don't know, Optics Planet, like you said, kind of sucks. And the reason why they suck is they are very well known for having something say in stock or order now, and then underneath there's like a small little question mark that says like availability or something, and you have to click that because sometimes it will say available 9 to 10 weeks from now, 5 to 7 months from now, 4 to 5 days from now, or it will say available ready to ship or something like that. And the only ones that are actually in stock are the ones that say, available ready to ship. That's important because a lot of people place these orders and they're like, what's going on? 6 months later, they still haven't gotten their product. I believe generally Optics Planet does wait to actually charge your card, but it's still frustrating, that they're saying or allowing you to order something that's not actually in stock. So that is always something to be aware of. As far as Optic, I have not ordered anything from them, but I have heard okay things. I can't say too much just because I'm not really sure. I've never ordered something from them, but I've heard a lot of other people that have and haven't had an issue. It's always been relatively good, service. So. With so many aftermarket triggers for the Glock 43X MOS out there, which one would be good for everyday carry? Was looking at the Johnny Glocks, but a little high in price. Rockford, so here's the deal, and I'm probably going to get a little bit of flack for this down in the comment section, but that's all right. I personally, with my EDC guns, keep all of my triggers stock. That's just me. I rarely mess with handgun triggers in general in my collection. I try to just, get proficient and good and effective with whatever trigger comes, with the gun out of the box. I would say that, if you have a trigger on a range gun that you're really trying to get the gun to shoot faster and everything like that, awesome. A lot of people want to go immediately out and switch out things, in their EDC pistols as far as internal components go. The only time that I would switch this out is if you have something that is going to potentially be unreliable. Prime example of this is in the HK VP9, there's a little cup that the striker rides in, and that cup is made of plastic. And in order to get your back plate off to clean out where the striker is riding, you have to press down on that little cup and get the back plate to come off the slide. And over time, you can really like tear that plastic up because you're trying to push it down and it's not super easy to get down. And HK Parts does offer an aluminum part to that to make it a little bit more rigid over time. This would be a prime example of something that I would say may be a good upgrade on an EDC gun. That's a part that might wear, and it's a part that you can replace to make it last longer. That would be a solid choice. For triggers, the reason why I don't upgrade them is almost always, I have seen Glocks in particular run into problems when aftermarket internal parts are put into them. I believe out of my a little over 7 years in the industry now, I have maybe only seen 2 factory Glocks actually come back with out-of-box problems, right? So the Glock was sold, there was an issue with it, unreliable problems, whatever, maybe 2. And that I've seen a lot of Glocks go through, and maybe only 2. As far as aftermarket accessory Glocks, folks that have used Zev parts, folks that have used agency parts, whatever, to make what and a lot of people term Gucci Glocks, right? Or even small trigger upgrades, right? Connector upgrades, whatever. I have seen a lot of people, even down to as small as slide release / stops, right? I have seen more than I can count run into problems. Even from people that I've seen switch out slide releases and all of a sudden their slide is locking back every round. Just random problems like that. Glocks tend to be very reliable until you start switching out different factory parts. I've seen them go to a little bit finicky, a little bit unreliable, needing some more fitting, to downright dangerous. There's just a wide variety of things. So generally speaking, I don't trust the triggers or change the triggers in any of my Glocks. As far as people saying, hey, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't switch out the trigger for legal things, in the future in a courtroom, whatever, I think that's relatively reaching. I think nowadays a prosecutor is going to try to crucify you regardless. You use the firearm to protect your life, and it's probably not going to end up too great for you as far as prosecution goes, almost always. Now, could they pin something else on you in regards to, a light trigger or something like that? I mean, maybe, but, I think that's reaching a little bit. So I wouldn't be too worried about that. My big concern with switching out the trigger is reliability, right? Reliability, trust in the trigger, all of those things are definitely an issue. Generally speaking, in Glocks, you can get just trigger shoes that change the feel of the trigger. That wouldn't be too terribly bad. That's something to do as well. But unless you are really getting to the point where you're like, man, I just cannot hit the broadside of the barn and it is all because of this trigger, then I maybe would switch it out. But if you're able to make hits and and connect on target with that trigger, I wouldn't swap it personally. Even in a lot of my ARs now I have a boatload of aftermarket triggers in my rifles, so that's a totally different story. In my home defense gun right now, I have a Geisley trigger, but in a lot of my AR variants, I am running just standard mil-spec triggers, and I have made the ability to kind of connect on so that I can connect on target. I've been training and getting a little bit better with those mil-spec triggers, and I have not had an issue with it. Now, obviously, can I connect a lot faster with a Geisley trigger? Yes, absolutely. And if I'm shooting a lot longer, is that always a concern? Yes. Obviously, that trigger upgrade is going to be a big deal. But as far as for normal defensive shooting, I don't think you're going to run into a problem. Stand by, reading everybody's questions. Give me 1 second. what would be your pick for a first pistol red dot? Just got a Glock 17 MOS and want to get used to pistol with dots on it. So red dot shooting on a pistol can be a little bit challenging when you first get started. So choosing the right pistol mounted red dot is definitely a good thing to make sure you get a lot of research into. My first question to you would be, are you using this gun in a defensive role? If you are using it in a defensive role, then I think there's a lot of things that really come into play, and those things that come into play are going to be battery life, durability of the optic, and also having an open emitter. So these are all things to be aware of. What is an open emitter? Well, when you have, I'm going to try to like draw on my backstop here. So you got the front of your glass, right? Let's say on an RMR. You got the front of your glass, and then it comes down in the back. So it's like an L, like this, right? So there's your optic. And there's a little emitter in the back that emits a red light or a red little beam onto the glass, and that's your red dot. That's what your eye is picking up. And the downfall with having an open emitter design is that lint, dirt, debris can get down into there. Now, when you are carrying inside the waistband or something like that, which absolutely can be done on a 17, it acts as almost like a cup, right, that holds all this lint and nasty debris, whatever. So that's always something to be aware of. Aimpoint does make the enclosed, design red dots. So that might be something, you consider. That is a relatively cool design to cover that emitter, so that way you're not running into any problems. So I personally EDC a Trijicon RMR. The Trijicon RMR, it's a Type 2 RMR that is adjustable with brightness. I don't have any issues with carrying that RMR. The reason why I like the RMR is because of the battery life. The battery life is going to be chugging along for quite some time. It has been on now for at least the last month, all day long, and obviously no issues at all, no signs that the battery is getting worse or anything like that. But if it's not for defense, if it's something that you're just messing around with, having fun at the range, rainy day, you might have to grab it in a really bad situation, whatever. Going with more affordable options, Vortex Viper, Vortex Venom, those are all good options. Now, the new Vortex Vipers do have longer battery lives, but with that battery life, I believe they still do have an auto shutoff, which is a no-go for me when it comes to a defensive gun. I have seen pretty good things so far about HoloSun red dot optics for pistols. I've seen a lot of really good things. People are really seeming to like them, and also they fit RMR plates, so that's a big plus too. So I don't know. You might want to try a couple different options, see which one fits you best. The RMR is really tough just because of the price point. RMRs are coming in at like sometimes $450 all the way up to $550. Depending on where you're getting it from. So that's always something to take into consideration as well. Give me 1 second here. Reading through everything. What are must-have MP5 upgrades in your opinion? Man, tough question to answer. Must-have. Must-have for me, I look at an MP5 and I want it to be OG immediately, so you got to get the wide handguard. You have to. You got to get the wide handguard. Even if you're not going to use it, the wide handguard is like 20 bucks. Like, buy it, keep it to the side. Nice thing with MP5s is it's one push pin to switch out the handguard. So if you want to do a cool photo shoot for Instagram and be that guy, you got the wide handguard to do it. I would also upgrade, if you have nothing on the end, then, grab a brace. If you want to live like a free man, or if you have SBR'd your MP5, I would definitely recommend getting a stock for the end of it, whether it's the collapsing stock, which is prohibitively expensive at this point, thanks to ridiculous stuff with availability, or the standard humpback stock. Any of those, the furniture tends to be very cheap right now for MP5s still, unless it's the collapsing. As far as for a more practical use for your MP5, having even like a Midwest M-LOK rail is incredibly practical. It allows you to, throw a white light on there, throw a vertical grip, whatever, on your MP5, and that is really helpful. The other nice thing that I like about having that rail option is because, again, your MP5 is so easily changed into whatever configuration you want it to be in. If you want to go more practical defense, then all you have to do is just simply pop a push pin and throw on the new, M-LOK rail system, and now you have your defensive MP5 for the day. If you're like, you know what, I have another gun for defense, I'm going to run the Scorpion today for my PCC. I want the MP5 to look a little bit more traditional. Pop out the push pin, put in the wide forend, pop it back in, you're done. And mind you, you can keep all of those M-LOK accessories, white light on the side, vert grip on the bottom, IR laser, whatever, on that M-LOK rail, so that when you drop the push pin, you literally can take off the rail with all the accessories, set it to the side, get the other one, and pop it back on. Those are all things that are really nice. As far as switching out the trigger housing or the trigger group, personal preference thing. I mean, it depends on which housing that you have and which one you want to go to. But, I would go off comfort and feel and, aesthetics. If you want one that looks really OG, like an SEF trigger housing that has like the really nice finger grooves and stuff, then go with that. If you're just fine with more of the, I think they call it the Navy style, it's a personal preference thing. And it also depends on how much you want to put into your MP5. And, I've been seeing good things about Magpul stuff as well, so that might be a good option too. It really just depends on what you're looking to do. Liking the MP5 question, though, I feel like that's the first time somebody asked me something about an MP5 in a very long time. My Optics Planet order available in November of 2020, and they just canceled it. Yeah, that sounds about right. Probably going to order an ACOG for my M16A4 clone from Euro Optic. Yeah, man. I mean, if it's at the right price point, I would do it for sure. Only use factory triggers from that manufacturer. Whether those triggers are upgraded or stock, don't buy any aftermarket trigger for your carry gun unless it comes directly from that factory. Yeah, I would tend to agree, Sean. I think, again, I could say over and over again that all of the times that I have seen problems arise from normally very, very reliable guns is when aftermarket parts are put into them, specifically handguns, and even more specifically Glock variations. Almost always, weird reliability problems happen with aftermarket upgrades in Glocks. Now, with that being said, I know many people that have or carry Glocks with aftermarket parts in them, complete aftermarket slides, aftermarket trigger components, and they've never had a problem. It's always ran great, 100% reliable, and that could very well be the case for you. I'm just saying that if you don't absolutely have to make those upgrades, I don't know that I would risk wasting the money to do all that just so you can, flex on social media or something like that. IO Inc. is Royal Tiger Imports. Don't deal with them. Yeah, not a great idea. Definitely avoid. Primary Arms is where I get almost all my optics and parts from. Primary Arms is having $200 off ACOGs this weekend. Man, that is not bad at all. Not bad at all. Inadvertently smart. My Glock is all stock. Absolutely. There you go. IO Inc., yes, it is the same as Royal Tiger Imports. There's a lot of weird, shady stuff, honestly, with all that. Yeah, it's very odd. If you want a custom Glock, go buy an MR920, DR920, or MR920L Shadow Systems. ARs are completely different animals when it comes to parts. ARs are designed to be modular. Absolutely. Shadow Systems is what Sean is talking about there. Shadow Systems does offer almost like their own version of an 80% frame that they manufactured into a firearm, they really started to become the new hotness when some of the Glock patents ran out. And if you are looking for, an upgraded Glock, they will offer you that at like factory settings, basically. I've seen them actually be pretty reliable so far. Now the track record is still to be determined because obviously they haven't been around for quite a while. It's only been a year or two that a lot of those models have dropped. But I've been seeing pretty good things so far. Rockford, no problem, man. Sorry, guys. Just reading everyone's comments here. All right. Hey, greetings from Rochester. Good to see you, buddy. If you didn't already know, which I'm sure you did if you're watching my channel, but I am from Rochester, the 585 area code. Gotta love good old Rochester. Unfortunately, it's not my favorite place just because of gun laws and different things like that, which is always not too fun in a state like New York. And also, unfortunately, crime is getting beyond rough in Rochester, and mask mandates, all the lockdown craziness stuff that's going on up there is really actually horrifying, if anything. For stock Glocks, it's better to shoot a ton of rounds through it to break it in the trigger, if you can, of course. Yeah, Tony, that's a great point, too. Shooting a stock Glock, the more rounds that you get through it, and this goes for any pistol, the more rounds that you put down range, it's going to smooth out. It's going to loosen up a little bit, and all of that is going to happen with time. And that's something that's always important to remember. And nowadays, that can be a lot harder to do. It can be a lot harder to do. But even dry firing over and over and over and over again is going to help smooth out that pistol a little bit over time. Glock Gen 2, 3, and 4 patents have expired. They won't be getting rid of the Gen 1 or Gen 5 patent anytime soon. Shadow Systems is based off Gen 4, I do believe. Yes, Sean, you are right. So the first Shadow Systems that was really coming about, I remember being a Gen 3 platform, if I'm not mistaken. I could be totally wrong on that, but now all the MR series are Gen 4. So they're all going to be compatible with a lot of Gen 4 parts. The frame is a little bit of a different feel, but they are pretty good guns. And if you're looking for, something that's upgraded from just your standard stock blah Glock, that would probably be the way to go. More than likely. All right, guys, we got about 10 minutes left here. So everybody type in any final questions that you guys want to ask me, whether it's, about something we've already talked about in this live stream or something totally different. That's the nice thing about these live streams. And if nobody has questions, then, no problem. We'll end it a little bit early. But yeah, Glock will never get rid of the Gen 3 because of California. Yes. So the reason why they still do a Gen 3 Glock is because California's registry or whatever for handguns allows Gen 3, but not any other generations, from my understanding. So that is why a lot of people are wondering, why is there just a Gen 5 and then a Gen 3 Glock? Why'd they get rid of Gen 4? That would be the reason why. I like to paracord my AK folding stocks, but can't find any good color that truly matches plum color furniture. Burgundy, maroon, etc. are all the wrong color. Any suggestions? It's tough to say because for me and my AKs, it is like a non-matching hodgepodge of like garbage when it comes to color choices. I don't know why. I kind of like on my AK variants that they're just like red, plum, bakelite, thing going on, and it's all different shades and different colors and, you know, whatever. A lot of my AKs just tend to be like that, and the ones that aren't are generally one solid color, all black, you know, all FDE or whatever. All my wood variation AKs, or even like plum, I always do like weird oddball colors. That's just me. You know, I couldn't tell you why. It's just kind of like what I do. As far as something that matches the plum, if anything, it might look good to just keep it black. You know, if you have a plum handguard and a plum pistol grip, but you have an underfolder, just doing some black paracord actually wouldn't look too bad at all, because it's just kind of all black in the rear of the stock, and then it goes into plum for the other furniture parts. So I personally would, if it was you know, something I was really trying to start matching, I would try just straight black and go with there, because trying to match the plum color is going to be really weird, and you're probably going to get just like kind of odd shades of purple that just don't really look right. So because of that, I would, again, probably just stick with black. I got a Shadow Systems MR920 Combat. I'm pretty happy with my investment. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely, Tony. MR920L and MR920 Combat Optic ready. I'd personally take over Glock any day if you want an optics ready. MOS system sucks. I have almost 2.5 thousand in total through these two. That's not a bad data point at all. I know a lot of people are not fans of the factory Glock MOS cut system. For me, I've never really had an issue with my MOS Glock, but I know a lot of people that have. So I got lucky. You know, I didn't have any issues with screws shearing or coming off or any weird things like that. It's always just worked out pretty well for me. But again, I do know of people that have run into those problems. So always keep that in mind. And that is where, you know, sometimes some different types of slide cuts or getting, you know, a smith or a machine shop to actually mill out the slide for you may come in handy, may not. And then also companies like CHPWS do make some really good aftermarket plates as well, if that's what you're looking for too. Hello and welcome, Mike. Good to see you in. So, guys, I think that's pretty much going to wrap up this Firearm Freedom YouTube live stream. Make sure you head to that description after this live stream ends, normally like 4 to 5 minutes after it ends, and it will be filled with all of those links that you can go to support what I do here on the channel. And we will go from there. Guys, if you have any other questions in this live stream or ones that I didn't get to, throw them down below in the comments section, and you guys know I will always get back to you. Might take me a week or two, but I will answer your comment at some point. Right now, it's going at about a week, possibly, before I get back to you, but I will get back to you. And if you enjoyed this live stream, share it around to your friends. All that stuff really helps me out. As always, thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for more great videos to come soon.